today. If you are calling in on the phone and you have a question that you would like to ask, please text us your phone number or just the question itself to 330-836-2100. Again, 330-836-2100. If you are on the computer, you can simply just click on Q&A and enter your question there, or just put a question mark in there. That way I'll unmute you and you can ask your question. Okay, so today we decided to bring Money Mondays back after about 6 months of us not doing this, or 6-7 months, because we are getting so many questions regarding the stimulus and the business loans and things that are available and the unemployment. And so we thought it would be a good idea to gather up as many questions as we can and try to get through as many scenarios and things that are being floated around that are just completely incorrect, and try to provide some good information. So we're going to cover 3 parts today. I am Lakeisha Miller Barclay. I am an enrolled agent with the IRS, and I am president of SOS 1040 Plus. I will be covering everything to do with the individual stimulus package, or a portion of the stimulus package. Up next, we will have Gabrielle Daniel. She is vice president of SOS 1040 Plus, and she will cover everything related to unemployment. And lastly, we will have Arkia Walker, and she is president of Always Working Financials, and she will cover all the business options as it relates to the CARE package. Okay. So the biggest questions that we're getting, who is eligible for the stimulus package? And basically everybody that's a U.S. citizen or resident alien, as long as you have a valid Social Security number, you are not claimed as a dependent on someone else's 2018 or 2019 tax return, and your adjusted gross income is under a certain limit, you're going to qualify. We will get into more details. Who automatically will receive it? So if you've already filed your 2018 or your 2019 tax return, you're on Social Security retirement or disability or survivor benefits, you're going to automatically receive it. And for those few people that are receiving railroad retirement benefits. There is another subset of the population that doesn't normally file a tax return, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about the options that you have. But if you are considered a non-filer, traditionally you would have not filed a 2018, 19, or maybe never filed a tax return because you were not obligated to do so. If your income was below a certain amount, or if your only income was Social Security, you just were not required to file. So there's a new portal that we'll get into. So everybody keeps talking about how much money is in this CARES, and this is how it breaks down. So of the $2 trillion, $250 billion of it is being set aside for individuals and families. $350 billion is going to go to helping small businesses stay open, to pay payroll, to sustain. $250 billion is also being pumped into the state's unemployment, which Gabrielle will get into a little bit. $500 billion is going to go to distressed companies, $130 billion to the hospitals, and then $150 billion to the state and local government. So that would be your cities, counties, those that are going to also be suffering from the slowdown of the economics. So how much do I get? That's the question that people keep asking us over and over again. And it's a pretty simple formula if you want to determine how much you get. There's also some calculators out there, but it's pretty straightforward. If you filed single, married separate, or qualifying widower, and your income was $75,000 or less on your 2018 or 2019, so it'll be the most recent one that you filed, you're going to get $1,200. If you filed married joint and your combined income, adjusted gross income, was $150,000 or less, you're going to get $2,400. If you filed head of household, it falls into the same group as single. You're also going to get an additional $500 for every dependent that was under the age of 17 on your last filed tax return. That does not include any dependents over 18. I have not seen any guidance yet if for anyone disabled. I have not seen anything about that. So as of right now, $1,200 for single, head of household, married filing separate, and qualifying widower, and $2,400 for male inclined joint, plus an additional $500 per dependent. So some of the other things that are in the CARES Act that you may have heard of, there has been a moratorium on student loans. And what that means for those that are in a situation where they're not able to make those student loan payments because you've been laid off or your hours have been cut, there's no requirement right now to, the IRS is not offsetting the tax returns, the state's not offsetting the tax returns, and there will be no garnishments from Social Security or wages. So that's really good news for those that are being stressed right now and not able to make ends meet. You don't have to worry about at least those garnishments happening. The payments have been suspended through September 30th. Now, the thing to keep in mind is these loans are this only is for those loans that are held by the federal government. So if you have private loans through the banks, this does not apply to that. Okay? Just check here. All right. There's also going to be no accrual of interest until at least September 30th of 2020. The other part of student loans is few people know that your employer is permitted to make a benefit to you of up to $5,250 to help you pay for your student loans. That's normally considered taxable income, and this will be non-taxable income. So that could be a benefit for some people. Okay. And then 401k and retirement plans. There's traditionally a 10% penalty if you withdraw money from your 401k or your retirement if you're under a specific age. That penalty is going to be waived on up to the first $100,000 that you take out of your 401k. The second thing that you can do is you are permitted to now withdraw up to 100% of what you have in your 401k or retirement plan, the vested parts, the part that's yours, up to $100,000. And that's a pretty big deal. In the past, it's only been 50% and up to $50,000. So that they've doubled both of those. And in order for you to take advantage of that, you only have to certify to your employer that you have been adversely hurt by you've had financial consequences related to COVID. So you don't have to have COVID. You don't have to have a person in your family have COVID. But if you were laid off, your work hours reduced, or your business closed, you can basically attest to that. Okay. And the other part to the loan is you actually can have up to 3 years to pay that back, or to do an IRA rollover. There's lots of different stuff in there. So if you have any retirement plan questions, please put those in the Q&A. The IRS is also going to create 2 new portals for help specifically related to COVID. The first one is the IRS non-filers, which is open. This is for those people that would not traditionally have filed a tax return. If you need to get in and file just so that you are in this accounted for, so just the government knows that you're here, and give them your bank information. The only information that you need is you and your dependents, full name, address, social, birthday, and it's free directly at the IRS site. We can send you that link if you want it in the chat. But it takes about 3 to 5 minutes to do that, and it's completely free at irs.gov. The second portal that they're creating is Get My Payments, and so that's supposed to be live. They're saying by the end of this week or early next week. And what that does is it allows you to confirm 2 things. If you think it's gone out, it allows you to confirm that you did receive it, that this money was deposited. It also lets you know when, and if you have not yet received it, it lets you know when it's supposed to come. So this is a good way. It's kind of, if you're familiar with Get My Refund, it's the same type of situation, but it allows you to enter your bank information as well, so that you can get this money by direct deposit if you did not include that on your 2018 or 2019 tax return. I feel like I missed one. The other thing I wanted to remind everybody is to please beware of scams. The IRS is warning over and over and over again. The number of scams that are coming through is just absolutely astronomical right now. They're sending out letters telling people, you know, you have to submit this or call this number. People are getting emails telling you to click on this link to have your funds released, and it's just for phishing. They're looking to get your bank information. They're looking to get your address, your social, anything that they can provide, your direct deposit information. So please be diligent and pass that around, especially to our seniors. I think they're going to be really hit the hardest in all of this because they're not aware, they're not used to possibly being on the computer a lot. They don't know things can look very legit, but remember, the IRS is not going to send anything to you by computer. If you want to log in, you will have to go to irs.gov. Any other site is not valid, and that's the only place that you're going to be able to get in there and actually see when your money is coming. There's a payment calculator there. There's all types of good tools. So just be diligent, and please pass that around to people. They're not calling asking for any information. That's not true. So here's a list of some of the questions that we have. What if I haven't filed my tax return in the past 2 years? Well, again, if you're one of those non-filers and you have not been required to file because your income was below the threshold and you are not on Social Security, we would recommend that you get onto that portal immediately and get your information in there with your bank account so that you can be in the first couple waves. There will be multiple waves of this as it goes out. All right, the next question is, I'm on Social Security. Do I need to file a tax return to qualify? And the answer is no. Social Security, retirement, all those ones that I listed earlier, they're already doing direct deposit for you, either to a bank account or to the card, and they're going to use that information to deposit your account, deposit into your stimulus into your account. The next question, what tax return will they use? So if you file 2019, they're going to use 2019's information, and by that I mean they're going to use your filing status and the number of dependents that you claimed. They're also going to use that bank account that was provided if you did a direct deposit. If you did not file a 2019, they're going to automatically look back at 2018. If you did not file a 2018, again, our recommendation would be if you do not qualify for the non-filers free portal, to get your tax return in as soon as possible so that they have your information. All right, the next question, what bank account will they use? Again, if you filed 2019 and you opted for direct deposit, they're going to use that. If you are on Social Security and you have direct deposit, they're going to use that. And the question has come up, what if my bank account has changed since then? Then we would recommend that you get into that Get Payment portal as soon as it opens here, and we will send an email out to anybody that asks. If you're part of our clientele, we're going to send that out. If you're part of our blog list, it'll be there as well. And Gabrielle will probably text it out to people just so they know it's open and available. But you want to make sure you get in there as soon as possible and get them your updated bank account. The next question we get a lot is, what if I owe the IRS money? So the good thing is this money cannot be used for an offset. So it cannot be used for a tax lien. It cannot be used for a debt. It cannot be used for any other purpose other than the money coming straight to you. Child support, nothing. It's just going straight to you. All right. Do I qualify if my parent claimed me on their tax return? So unfortunately, I think this is the biggest hole in this act that came out. I also have kids that are in college and they are on our tax return. Those kids will not qualify for any form of stimulus, and as a parent, we will not qualify to receive anything for them because they're over the age of 17. So even if your kids were in college, if you claim them on your return, even if they filed their own return on their own, they're not going to qualify for any type of stimulus. All right, looks like we have a question. If I can read it. Okay. Will my preparer receive my refund if I use the bank product? What we are being told is that the IRS does know the difference in the system between a third-party bank provider and an individual deposit. And what I mean by that, hopefully no one has been a victim of fraud or scams and had their refund directly deposited into their preparer's account, because that's illegal. Just to let you all know, it's 100% illegal. You cannot have your refunds go to your preparer's account if you paid them. That is against all IRS rules. What we do is we use a third-party bank provider where your funds go from the IRS to that third-party bank provider. They then dispatch your funds to you and your fees to the preparer. So supposedly they're going to be able to see that that's a bank product. These people, we are recommending that you get into that portal and give them your bank account information, because the IRS does not see your direct deposit. They only see that third-party bank provider. So if you went to any of the large ones, it doesn't matter. Just get in there and get that updated. All right, next question. Someone else claimed my kids. Who gets the $500 for my kids? Well, they will. They're going to look at the individual tax return and the number of dependents that was on it. When someone files and they claim someone else's children, the IRS's assumption is that those are their dependents, because that's what you're attesting to, you're saying when you sign that tax return. So the IRS does not know that they are person B's if person A claims them. So that we see is going to be a major issue for people that have allowed that to happen. Those funds will go to the people, the person where the children or the dependents were listed. And the IRS is not going to get involved, because what then you're doing is basically saying to the IRS that you allowed someone else to claim your children when they weren't supposed to. That's a whole other can of worms. All right. I filed married joint. Did we get one check or two? From everything that we are seeing, it's one check for the $2,400 plus the $500 per dependent. I have not been able to find any hardcore evidence for people that did injured spouse, because there's a specific part on the form that asks for 2 checks when you do injured spouse. I have not seen anything of the regulations for that. If we do find anything, I will make sure to update you guys. Okay. If I miss the stimulus payment this year, what happens next year? So if you are unable to get your 2018 and your 2019 done before the end of this year, because these checks will continue to go out through the end of this year, if that happens, you will be able to claim this credit on next year. So what this is people keep using the word rebate, but it's actually a credit. The check that you're getting this year is a credit against a credit on next year's tax return. So in 2020 or 2021, when you get ready to file your 2020 tax return, there will be a new credit on there, and I haven't seen what it's called, or probably stimulus or CARES or something like that. That's going to have the same formula: filing status plus number of dependents. If you didn't collect that, because it's going to ask you to say how much you received. If you didn't get to collect in the year of 2020, you'll get that credit on 21 on 2020's tax return. Now, if you got more than you were supposed to, we have not seen any regulations to state they're taking it back. So some of the things that this is not, because we keep getting this stuff, it is not a loan. It is not something that must be paid back to the government. It's simply just a credit towards next year's credit. The next scenario that can happen is if you had a baby in 2019, so you would have been eligible for that extra $500, but you haven't had a chance to file that tax return yet for whatever reasons by the end of this year. Again, you'll get that extra $500 on next year's tax return. So you won't lose it. So when the question just came in, will we have to pay this money back next year? No, you do not. The purpose of this CARES was to get money flowing into the economy. It is to get people to be able to pay their rent, to buy groceries, child care, whatever it may be. That was the purpose of this. This is not meant to It's not a snatch and grab. So it was not meant to give out a couple, checks and then snatch them all back. That was not the point. Okay, looks like I already answered that question. All right, so again, if you have any questions, please just put your phone number in the chat, or you can text your questions directly to me. Okay, and if no one has any other questions, I'm going to turn it over to Gabrielle, and she's going to go over unemployment. So if you have any questions, you can either chat, text, or put them in the Q&A. All right, let me get back over.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay and see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So we're going to be talking about unemployment. So with the Federal Pandemic Unemployment Compensation Act, individuals who are eligible for unemployment benefits will receive an extra $600 weekly, and that's for all weeks of unemployment between April 5th of 2020 and July 31st of 2020. So in addition to the amount you would have already received weekly for unemployment, there will be an extra $600 added to that weekly between the months, again, of April 5th and July 31st. The Pandemic Unemployment Emergency Compensation provides extra unemployment for up to 13 additional weeks. So there are some states who have different laws, and unfortunately I can't break it down per state level unless someone has a question about a specific state, and then I can help them on the sidelines with that, because there's so many different variables. The maximum is 39 weeks, where previously most states capped it at 26 weeks. So for instance, Ohio is capped at 26 weeks. So if someone was put off of unemployment before the CARES Act went into place and they had already exhausted their 26 weeks, they are not eligible to sign up again for unemployment until their re-enrollment period, and they don't qualify for the Pandemic Unemployment Emergency Compensation. Now, those that did qualify for the extended benefits, they're available through December 31st. Any of the additional 13 weeks of benefits received prior to July 31st, 2020 should include the extra $600. All right, so for the individuals that qualify, this is the criteria. And you as an individual have been diagnosed or you're experiencing symptoms and seeking diagnosis. A member of your household has been diagnosed with COVID. An individual that's caring for a family member that's inside of the household with COVID. An individual who is the primary caregiver of someone within the household whose school is now shut down due to COVID. An individual that is unable to reach their place of employment due to imposed quarantine or was advised by a medical provider to self-quarantine. An individual was scheduled to start new employment and cannot start that job due to COVID-19. And an individual that became the breadwinner or major support for household because the head of household died from COVID-19. There are also rules in place for individuals who have to quit their job due to a direct result of COVID-19, or their employment shut down entirely because of COVID-19 and has laid off all their employees. So basically how this is going to be administered to each person who qualifies, you will use your state's unemployment compensation program. So the easiest way to find the real website for your state is you're going to go to Google, type in your state's name, literally add a plus sign and type in unemployment, and you'll be able to find the unemployment portal. Across all states, unemployment has extended its hours. I'm being told it's best to call either extremely early in the morning when they first open the lines or closer to the end of the day when they're just going to be wrapping up. I know the online portals are bogged down, so you have to be patient. You have to sit on hold. I know it's going to be a process, but it's nothing anybody else can do. You have to do it yourself. This isn't even something we can do as your tax preparer. So you just have to stay patient, stay on hold, and keep trying to apply online. Okay, so those that are ineligible for unemployment benefits are as follows. If you are working from home, if your job gives you the option to work from home and you are not laid off and you are still receiving your normal paycheck, you cannot apply for unemployment. If you already used all eligible weeks granted for unemployment, So like I said, if you were already at the cutoff of 26 weeks in a 12-month period, you do not qualify. If you don't meet the minimum state income requirements, again, this is different across all states. Each state requires that you were to be making a certain amount of money a week and also working a certain amount of hours. So if you were not, for example, in Ohio, making at least $264 and working at 20 plus hours a week, you do not qualify to benefit from unemployment either. And anyone on sick leave or other paid benefits through their employer. So if you're on sick leave, short-term disability, or maybe FMLA of some sort, you don't qualify for unemployment because you are already being paid wages from your employer. Let's see here. Hold on, I have a question. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, with unemployment, yes, you can get unemployment via direct deposit, or I know in the state of Ohio they offer a card that's through U.S. Bank actually, and it comes with providing an account number if you don't have a bank account. And then let me make sure I don't see anything else here. No, I don't. I think we're all covered for unemployment. If you have any questions, you can text me directly at 330-836-2100. If you have anything else you need to know about unemployment, I'm here to help. And right now, I'm going to turn it over to Arkia. Have a great evening, guys.
Okay, guys, while we wait to get that switched over to Arkia, I did have one question that came in regarding Social Security disability, and the question was if you did not use direct deposit, should you use the Get Payment tool? Absolutely. The other thing I wanted to mention is the IRS will be sending out a letter within 15 days of your check or direct deposit going out to the last address that it has on file for you, notifying you of the fact that they issued you your payment. So if you receive that letter and you know you have not received your check, there will be a way for you to follow up with the IRS and let them know that if they send it into a direct deposit or something, then it has been sent. Okay, Arkia, check your screen. You should have the pop-up now to accept the presenter mode. And again, you have questions coming in, so just keep those coming in, and you can either chat them or you can put them in the Q&A, or you can text them to 330-836-2100. Arkia, grab your other screen. Okay. I think. This looks crazy over here. Just want to make sure I'm right. So you can see my slides, right? We're all looking at, you can see the common questions, right? Yes, ma'am. Okay, great. So a couple of questions have come in regarding this COVID and all this stimulus and what the money's for and where it's going and everything like that. And a lot of people have heard that the extensions to file for individuals are out, and that's true. It is until July, and the business filings have also been extended until July also, for those who have, will pay their business taxes and all that fun stuff. Let me see. One of the biggest questions that everyone is asking is if the loans have to be repaid. So, here we go. So, no, I don't want this one. I want this one. The repayment is kind of, it varies. Depending on like what you use them for and when they came, like
the amount that they're used for, but pretty much everyone qualifies for them. Nonprofits, businesses, self-employed, independent contractors. They're kind of capping it off at businesses, 500 or less employees. One of the huge funding that's coming from the SBA that I've encouraged all of my clients to apply for, like, immediately, especially if you're like struggling with cash on hand, is the economic injury disaster loan. From what I understand, that, give me just a second. I can't. Wait a second. Where'd it go? Give me just a second.
Hey, Arkia, while you try to find that, one of the questions that came in, is it possible to get all of these loans or all of these grants, or how does that work? Are there any rules on which ones you're allowed to get multiples of?
So I've not seen anything that says that you can't apply for all of them. They are asking you to provide information stating that you have received funding from other, if you've received other funding, they are asking you to provide that information. I'm not sure if it's just used in the processing or whatever the case, but you are able to apply for everything as long as, and like I said, everyone is pretty much qualified as business owners and independent contractors, self-employed, nonprofits. So that's all out there for everyone. Can they deny you? Well, everything's not 100%, so they can deny you, but I don't think that they will. I think that it's kind of just based on the dollar amount that you'd actually receive. There we go. It's like every time I touch something, my screen changes, and I don't want it to.
Okay, Arkia, one of the questions that have come in, of those 4 that you have up there, what is the major difference of those? Are some like just for the paycheck protection? Is that just for payroll? So what's the best way to do it? Oh, then here's a best way practice too, just while we're doing this. When you share your screen, if you share just that tab that you have the presentation open in, it won't let us see the other things on your screen. So go ahead and unshare or change your share and just select this one tab that this is in. That way you can have your other thing open and see your notes.
Okay, I think I got it. Yes. So the Paycheck Protection Program is really focused more on covering payroll for those that have, wait, where am I? I just want to make sure you're looking at can you see my screen? What do you see on my screen? I have I'm trying to close out of stuff, but I don't want to close out of the wrong thing.
You're fine. Yeah, the only thing we can see right now is the presentation itself, which is perfect. So if you have anything else open, just all we can see is this. Yep, just that. Just the slide.
Okay, great. So the Paycheck Protection Program, it can be used for everything as far as your business goes, so your utilities, your rent and mortgages and all of those things. One of the terms is that 75% of it, though, be used for payroll purposes, and if I'm not mistaken, that is the part that you don't have to repay. And then, where did it go? One of the really, really good things about all of the loans, I know people are saying that they're like loan grants, and the only reason that they're saying that is because they don't have to be repaid back. But if you are required to repay them back for whatever reason, you don't have to use any of your personal anything. You don't have to use anything personal for collateral. They're deferred like 2 years out, and the interest rate's only like 1% on what has to be repaid. Let's see that. Wait. Give me just a second. There's a question.
So, Arkia, I have a couple questions that have come in. One of the questions that people have called us and said they don't have a proper bookkeeper, they don't actually use QuickBooks or anything, and they want to know one of the requirements that several of these are asking for, these funding options, is a profit and loss statement, your financial statements, your P&L and your balance sheet. How can they go about having those recreated on their own, or should they seek a bookkeeper or someone to help them get those done?
I highly recommend you seeking a bookkeeper to help you get those in order, because most people are unaware of that actual process and everything like that. And you want to make sure that they're in order and everything is how it's supposed to be, so that when you do submit these along with the application for the loans, everything is in place. So definitely seek a bookkeeper to help you get those in order.
Another question that we had was you made a comment about people being denied. One of the things I think you already said, but just to reiterate, specifically with the PPP, those loans are not required. They don't require a guarantor. So a lot of times people are asking us, well, I don't have good credit. What am I supposed to do if my business already has bad credit? And that was the purpose of these. It's not supposed to be based on your personal collateral or your personal credit line. This is, like you said, disaster relief.
Correct. All of the four that are here on the screen, the PPP, the bridge loan, the economic injury disaster, and the debt relief, none of which use your personal credit as collateral. So that's a definite plus for people in positions that are in the best of financial positions and all that stuff.
Another question that came in, if I've been paying people under the table, can I write that off under the Paycheck Protection Program? And I think we all know the right answer, but just in case, we're going to say no.
No. You cannot. You absolutely cannot.
If you
because you're not technically paying payroll.
Right.
You have no payroll. That's unfortunate. You're not paying those premiums. You don't have any employees, according to them.
Right. And Arkia, what is the difference for people between an independent contractor and a, say, a self-employed person? Can you be an independent contractor and qualify one way because you don't have any employees, but then also be a self-employed person and that uses independent 1099s? Can you explain a little bit about those people that may not have payroll, but they're using people on 1099?
So it is the exact same. Like I said, everyone does qualify. So if you are a business that issues out those 1099s, you also are eligible for these relief disaster loan plans, funding. And then if you're self-employed, you also qualify. So you would just apply yourself. But as far as like the payroll goes, you technically don't have it also. So.
And then another question came in about the documents that are required. I think it depends on the specific loan that you're doing. I have seen different screens so far of the documentation that's required, and depending on which loan that you're going for, it's going to ask different questions. For the PPP, for example, I've helped a couple clients get that one done, and they have moved into what they call like phase 3 of the loan application. So now we're starting to upload documentation like the unemployment forms to show how much you actually were paying, maybe the W-2s, and then also some type of report from what they consider a real software. So they're not looking for you to create pay stubs in Excel or some free site. They're looking for real pay stubs, real proof that you actually paid. Yes, that you actually paid people. Remember, whenever there's free money, there's going to be fraud.
Yes, lots of it. Attempted, at least.
Right.
So yeah, definitely for business owners, you definitely want to have on hand your P&L statement, proof of payroll, and then for some of them, you're going to want to have, just pretty much your payroll, your premiums and insurances and all that stuff that you pay out. Because they're going to ask for all that stuff because they do want proper documentation. And I'm not sure if they're basing that, if they're using that information to determine how much money that you do receive, because they are varying amounts. But you definitely want to have all of that stuff.
Okay, just to reiterate too, one of the other questions that people, our clients are constantly calling in, and what people need to remember is this site only went live for the loan applications on the 10th, on that Friday, so on the 9th and the 10th. So it's not been a long time, and we're already hearing that some banks are already running out of funding. The other thing that we're hearing is that due to the overwhelming number of people that have requested these loans, your branch manager may not be able to provide you any assistance, as it still has to go through underwriting, SBA rules. There's lots of things that are happening that it may be outside the control of your branch manager. So I say that to say, hey, have some patience. For what I've seen so far, they're all in an automated system. So as you move through the different steps, it tells you where they are, when it needs to be updated, and what to expect. One of the other questions is, how much should I typically, how much should I pay to have my profit and loss and my balance sheet? What's a good amount? So because of IRS rules, we are not allowed to talk pricing. What I would say to you is to make sure you are shopping around. Make sure you get a good an estimate from several different proposals from a couple of different profitable people that are presentable people that have done this in the past. Anyone can open a Word document and do a P&L for you. It needs to match your tax filings. So if you filed your Schedule C or your business return and you did not have a profit and loss, those numbers should line up because that's what you normally would have done in the other order. You'd have done your P&L, your balance sheet, use that to create your tax return. So make sure all those numbers add up. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, seasonal employers. There's a special calculation when you are going to submit your stuff specifically to the Payroll Protection Program. It tells you exactly what to do. You're either going to use the last 12 months, so you go back to April 1st of 19 through March 31st of 2020, or whatever 12-month period that you're looking back at. That's how you come up with that 2.5 times. But again, all these applications, Arkia has them here. We can share the slides with anyone that wants them. Please just chat with us or text us your email address, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of the slides. We also have this information on our blog at sos1040.com under our blog section. All of these 4 types of loans and grants are also out there, and it gives you very specific information on what you have to do to qualify for each type. Okay, looks like we have another question. Which sites are safe when applying for grants? So I would recommend, or Arkia, have you run into any specific sites that they want everybody to pretty much go through SBA to get a list of all the banks and lenders that are participating?
Yes. They actually do have a list of vendors and banks that are participating on the SBA.gov. And then if you're applying for one of the 4 loans, the PPP and the other 3 that I've listed earlier, they're also directly linked there. So you can avoid a lot of fictitious and fraudulent things that are out there just by going directly to the source. If you're looking for grants that aren't really related to COVID, I would just go to grants.gov.
Okay, and then when you get to the SBA site, do they also all outline of those 4 types of programs, what's payable, what's forgivable? Do they have that is it pretty easy to understand?
Yes, it is. It is extremely understandable. So when you go to SBA.gov, as soon as you get to their website, there is a huge banner that says COVID on there. You definitely want to click that to avoid going through everything else, kind of irrelevant things at this point. And then they do list out eligibility and requirements and what they're looking for, and pretty much everything is there in plain English. You're not going to struggle through it. Most applications only take a few minutes if you have everything you need as far as documentation-wise. So they're pretty simple.
And I will say this too, one of the other questions have come in is, which one should I apply for? So I've recommended to our business clients that if you need assistance with payroll, to do the PPP for sure. Mm-hmm. The only difference between that one and the other is the formula that comes up with, and the fact that almost all of it's forgivable as long as you use it for payroll in the next 8 weeks. So the purpose of that specific grant, or loan, is to keep your people on payroll. They want to keep as many people off unemployment as possible. So if you go for that one, they're looking for you to, you're going to give them an estimate of what your payroll is per month, and you're going to use that by looking back in the last 12 months, or if you're seasonal, it gives you the calculation to do it. And then you take that number and you multiply it by 2.5. They're willing to forgive, is it 80%, Arkia, on that one? As long as
say it again.
It's 80% that they're forgiving for that, right? As long as you use it for payroll, right? So what they do once you get funded is they look at the next 8 weeks to see if you actually use those funds for the payroll that you said you needed it for. And if you do, it's forgivable.
Yes.
And if you don't have to pay. You only have to pay back the portion that's not forgiven. But like she said, at 1% rate over 24 months. You can still turn around and get the other loans, but you can't cross the expenses. So if you say you need PPP for payroll, the economic disaster you might use for, I don't know, rent or, other things that are outside of the payroll. So you can do multiples. but like she said, you will have to disclose each of the ones that you've already received. And like I said earlier, you know, there's a 350 billion is being set aside for small business, and then 500 billion for the larger. So that sounds like a lot of money. But if you look at all the states and you look at all the employers and all the people that will need assistance, that's not a lot of money. So we are recommending to people, even if you don't know you're going to need it right away, or if your finances have not yet really been touched, but you feel like they will maybe by summer, go ahead and apply, because once the funds are out, they're gone as of now, unless another stimulus comes out. So we're recommending for people to go ahead and get this done. And like she said, get your documentation in order so that when the bank asks you for that additional stuff, you actually have it. Okay, let's see if we have any other questions. Okay, so Gabrielle was just mentioning that PayPal, Intuit, and Square are approved to offer loans to small businesses through coronavirus relief program as well. So again, like Arkia says, you can check SBA's site, and they will have the entire list of all the authorized participants that are part of the relief card program. If you do not see a lender on there, just be cautious. Again, lots of scams, lots of things to take advantage of people. So start with the place that we know is valid. Okay. Well, we're coming up on 7 o'clock, so if anyone else has any questions, we're going to go ahead and close. Again, we will maybe try to do this again after the payments come out if there's a need. If there's still a lot of issues, we will, again, put it out on Facebook in the text message. And we want to thank you all for joining us today. Again, if you are not already part of our blog, please visit us at sos1040.com. Click on the blog. You can also find Arkia's information at, what's your website, dear?
There it is. awfinancials.info.
Okay. And we thank you again. Everybody have a blessed day. Be safe and keep that information safe. We shut her down there.